So this is officially our first confidence interval together, which is awesome because we're going to learn in total probably about 6 or 7 different types of these. So by the end of our course together, you guys will be really sick of this process. Now remember, any confidence interval I do though, it's always a 3-step process. So we always start with the first step, which is to list everything. Then we'll go to our second step, which is where we do any of our calculations. And then after we do our calculations, our third step is to go ahead and find our interval. We have an unofficial 4th step, and that'll be where we state our answer. Now, we know we're doing a confidence interval because, well, first of all, the problem says we're doing a confidence interval, but also what we want to do. We want to figure out, well, how do all Americans feel? We're not trying to prove something. We're not trying to test a hypothesis. We just want to see, well, where do people lie? That tells us we got to do a confidence interval. I can tell this is a proportion because when I look at this problem, I notice right off the bat I have a percentage. So I know I'm doing with categorical data, which means I'm going to be doing a proportion problem. I also know I have one sample because they tell me I have this single group of people. So I have a 1 proportion confidence interval we're doing here. Now when we go to list, we need to list our necessary information. That's p hat, that's the percentage of people. We need n, that's our sample size, and we also need z. That's how many standard deviations do we have to be away from our expected value to get 95% confidence. Now remember, for 95% confidence, z-score is always 1.96. And in this case is 1,001 people, and p hat, the percentage of people, is 0.55. Remember, p hat should always be in decimal form. After we make our list, the next thing we need to do is do our calculations. The only thing we need to calculate is SE here. Remember, SE is standard error. It's our estimate of our standard deviation. SE is equal to the square root p hat 1 minus p hat all over n. So when we plug this in here, I'll have square root 0.55, 1 minus 0.55, all over 1,001. If you know that you have problems plugging things into calculator, it's always best to simplify this. So we'll have 0.55 times 0.45 by doing that subtraction divided by 1,001. Now remember, when we find this number, as with any number we find with proportion problems, we're always going to keep 4 decimal places. So in this case, I'll write it over here, SE is going to give me 0.0157. That is, I'm estimating my standard deviation is right around 1.57%. Now I've gotten all this information, the final step is to put it together with my interval. My interval is p hat plus or minus z times SE. And all of our confidence intervals we do in the future will have this form. That is, I have my point estimate here with p hat, and then my margin of error right back here. So when I plug these in, then I'll have 0.55 plus or minus 1.96 times 0.0157. Which gives me an interval, writing in this interval notation here. The lower number is 0.5192, and the upper one, 0.5808. The final thing we do with our confidence interval is to go ahead and summarize the information we've gotten. So, using this interval, we recall that we are, in fact, 95% confident. And I know I'm 95% confident based on the fact that I used a z-score of 1.96. That the true percent. And we say this because the people we surveyed didn't represent everyone. That is, I didn't survey every American. I only surveyed 1,001 of them. So what we're going to do now is be 95% confident that the true percent, the actual percentage of, now here's where I'll state my population, all Americans who, and now I'm going to tell people, well, what am I generalizing about? And in this case, if you look up here, it's the percentage of all Americans who feel that religion can answer all or most of today's problems. Right, underline that. So once again, I'm generalizing a percent. I'm trying to estimate all Americans who, and this is what they believe, is between. And now I'll state my interval. In this case, I had 51.92% and 58.08%. So to summarize what we just did is we took the 1,001 people who were surveyed and we generalized and said, okay, based on this data, we're 95% confident that actually if you surveyed all Americans, the true percentage of people who'd feel this way would be somewhere between like 51 and 58%. We've made an interval inference based on a sample of only 1,000 people, which is pretty cool. Now, a quick reminder about this question. When we say that 55% feel that religion can answer all or most of today's problems, it's always important when you see a survey question like this to think about what other options people had when they answered this. The way Gallup designed this poll is actually really fascinating and something we're going to be talking about later on.